Okie dokie. Hello and welcome back to Strabane Community Unemployed Group. This is Tim. I'm the Digital Hub Coordinator. Today I have Anne Smyth with me. I know Anne through the Scouts, but Anne is also a retired teacher and she also has other hats that she wears in the community. So you'd like to tell us a bit about yourself first and then we'll start with the questions.
Well, Tim, I grew up in Strabane and I've lived here all my life. Although I did go to Scotland for college, and that was an experience for 4 years, but I still wanted to come back to Strabane. And I suppose I was brought up in the countryside, on a farm just outside Strabane, and I have 6 brothers and sisters.
Which direction outside Strabane?
It would be out towards Strahan's Road, out not far from the Gata site. And we were brought up in the farm, and that was a wonderful experience. We knew all our neighbours really, really well, because in the countryside people do depend on each other, especially at harvest time. And I've many happy memories of working in the fields whenever the pressure was on with potato gathering, and the fun that we had too with people coming out from the town to help us gather the potatoes. And the Carrickley races, which maybe gives you an indication how old I am, because I did grow up in the 60s, and I can remember the train also under Strahan's Bridge, and the train just on the Ernie Road where there would have been a level crossing, and having to stop with my parents in the car. Although we did have a van at that stage, and with 7 children we used to sit in benches in the back of it, and some very happy memories too. And started off school in the Bowling Green Hall, and just so different from the schools nowadays, and having to go outside to the toilet, which you wouldn't expect to do now at all. And I think my first year of teaching or learning was in the Orange Hall, and again the seats were all built up in tiers, a bit like a sports ground, and having to all do it in unison, putting your foot out and then being able to get up. But just starting Strabane Primary School out the Derry Road in 1964 was a wonderful experience. Everything was so new after what we'd been used to, and that's where I did most of my teaching career as well. So
that's the building that exists today?
Yes, that's right. And not much has really changed inside the building, so I feel it's almost like my second home, and I still go there to do the gardening club. And I've always found it a very friendly, happy place to be.
Yeah, and you retired from your teaching?
I retired in 2018, so I'm nearly 7 years retired. Okay. But I still go in regularly, and I enjoy just working with the children, as I always did when I was a teacher there.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you very much, Anne. Second question then, what was your first impression of Strabane whenever you came in? What do you think of the community whenever you came into Strabane?
Well, Strabane has changed a lot since I was born. If you think 66 years ago, the main street was different, small, thriving grocery shops, and we didn't have big multinational enterprises like Asda or even SuperValue. But it was a friendly place, and the back street was always buzzing, and of course it's no longer there. It's now just Market Street. And there were lots of little places like Cassoni's for bags of chips on a Saturday. And there was a show band scene as well in the Palindrome. And it was a town that had music round every corner with pop bands, Carlton Clipper. And again, Strabane's still a very friendly place, but there was something different about it when it had the town hall and the little alleyways. And I suppose the place I was born was Strabane Hospital, and it's now demolished as well. And quite a lot of the landmarks, like the Academy School out the Derry Road, where I would have spent my middle years of primary school. And again, with the Troubles, growing up in the 1970s, I would have been involved in United Youth, and that would have been bringing people together, young people, and going turf cutting up in the bog and working together. And I think that has really stayed with me in my formative years. And I still think it's important that school children get to know each other, even though they might attend different schools. And certainly at one stage when I was in my beaver colony, which I still have been doing for 30 years, we had 5 primary schools represented, and I thought that's wonderful because these children wouldn't meet normally, but they're all together with their beaver uniforms on them.
Yeah. Yeah. To explain to you about the differences in the scouting groups in Strabane, speaking from somebody who's involved in it myself,
Yes.
Strabane had 2 groups of scouts. One were the CBSI, which were the Catholic Boy Scouts of Ireland, and then the scouts that we were associated with was just simply scouts.
An open group.
An open group. So, and it's the same as well too within education, because again, I explain this a lot to some of my friends as well too, who again say, well, you've sent your kids to the Protestant school, and what I try to explain back to them is that it's just school. We all grew up ourselves going to faith schools. We grew up in the CCMS system, so we were essentially going to faith schools. We weren't just going to school. So whereas my kids now just go to school is integrated, and especially even the way now that the Strabane Primary School is the one where you still go back and you do your gardening program with. I think it's at least now 50-50. Out there, so there is definitely harmony, and even my own kids have no understanding of the differences in flags or name calling. They just it just doesn't register with them. It is a whole new. But again, and I would like to think that because they're in a situation where it's not an issue. That's just they just get on with their friends, and differences or separations are like football teams and things. So for all intents and purposes, that we have really moved on, and maybe Strabane is maybe unique in that respect, but I think we definitely have. There's a whole new world in that
I do think so, and my mother would have set me a very good example because she was Melmount Community Care, and that would have been a community group for people that really do need help. And she actually went to a faith school in Clady, although again she was Methodist, which it was different. And she had a lot of friends, and she always kept in touch with them right through the years and sent them Christmas cards. And she worked in Riversdale Leisure Centre, and she had so many friends just across the community, and they stuck together. And always, if there was any time of need, like following a death, she'd have been there at the wake. And she always taught us to have respect for people who may not go to the same church as us, but that they were worthy of respect.
No, it's very good. And again, these things all start at home as well too. So next question. What changes have you seen in the community to date?
I think there's a lot more going on and opportunities, and people, I think, are more proud to be in Strabane. I was at the St. Patrick's Parade. I go every year, and I really enjoy that. And I think there is a respect for both cultures. Think of the Ulster Scots too, with the dancing. And I think of just different pathways that we do understand. And out in the Derry Road Primary School, we had Irish-speaking languages, and I can still remember some of the phrases that I'd learned. Kajay Maratata. So I think there's a wider understanding and acceptance that people can be valued as people without labels put on them.
Yeah, great. What changes have you seen in the attitudes within the community? More tolerant?
I think, yes, absolutely, more tolerant and more willing to reach out. I think I find that in beavers and cubs, and parents can come together over a cup of tea and coffee. They might never have met each other normally, but there's that lovely
they actually do go together for the coffee mornings and stuff that we hold at the hall. I mean, that very well supported events with parents. Yeah. And you find that they hover for half an hour after as well too, so which is nice. They
do indeed. And I think that's wonderful to see that we can have an organisation like Scouting that is across all faiths and worship patterns, and we can have a faith badge that everyone feels comfortable with. One little girl just got one last night for her first communion, and she was able to write me a prayer and talk about the people in church and the role that they had.
And the sacrament,
Yes, that's right, exactly. So I think that's very positive that we get to know each other, and there is that tolerance and respect as well.
Excellent. And the last question I'm going to ask is, what piece of advice would you repeat? What has somebody said to you, or what wisdom or anything that's made you smile along the way?
I think just it's like the scouting promise to be kind and helpful, and kindness is something that children need to learn right through their life, and to be the best they can be and do their best. I think that's one of our scouting promises right through the different sections, and be themselves as well, because they're special in God's eyes, and everybody has a talent. And that would always have been my line in teaching, that everyone had something, whether they were singing and dancing or doing the gardening, then they can work at it and they can do something really wonderful for other people.
We have a teacher in here Alton, who teaches maths, and he said something that I thought was really, really, really quite inspiring, from somebody who's worked in education and somebody who needed a bit of extra help as well along the way with my dyslexia. And Alton turned around one day and we were chatting about the education system and about courses and people and what they have to achieve and blah, 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 and the levels that people need to get to. And Alton turned around and he said, Tim, everybody's teachable. And I thought,
how lovely.
But exactly, and it was so refreshing to hear him say that as somebody who works in education and is still now, and Alton has his 30-year career as a lecturer, and he still has that, that's still how he feels about education, that everybody's teachable. And you just sit and think, well, that's because I know it's very easy to sort of kind of fall into attitudes, I know, within education or in some classrooms where there are certain people where you will think, well, they're not going to get it, and you sort of kind of back away from them, and you think, well, I'm not saying you're going to waste your time, but so your energy would be spent with the other children and things like that. Yes. Whereas there's somebody who's, as I say, has been within education for 35 years and still thinks that everybody's teachable. And I just thought that's fantastic.
It is. It's inspirational.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would go along with that. Yeah. Everyone has a talent.
He won't thank me for repeating that story. but it's true.
Bless him.
Okay. Thank you very much, Anne Smyth. Bye.
Thank you.